Last Friday was a big day in recruiting for Tennessee, with the Vols picking up 2 elite defensive linemen in a matter of hours. It started with 5-star defensive tackle Shy Tuttle, as expected, announcing his decision to commit to Tennessee. He chose the Vols over North Carolina and NC State during a ceremony Friday afternoon at his school. Tennessee had been the leader there for a couple of months, so the Vols kind of finished the deal, getting him on campus again a few weeks ago for the Utah State game, the season opener, and things have kind of been status quo with him for a while now. So big addition for Tennessee, obviously, to get another 5-star defensive tackle to go along with Khalil McKenzie of Concord, California. Been a long time since Tennessee had 2 defensive tackles that highly rated in the same class. Been a long time since anyone signed 2 5-star defensive tackles in the same class. So if Tennessee is able to finish the deal and sign both of those guys, it would be huge for the Vols. Tuttle's ranked the number 26 overall prospect in the 2015 class by 24/7 Sports. And then later in the day, Darrell Taylor, 4-star defensive end from Hopewell, Virginia, announced his commitment to the Vols. That one was a bit more of a surprise. Tennessee beating out Virginia Tech and Florida for him. Virginia Tech was believed to be the longtime leader for him going into that announcement, but in the hours leading up to it, it kind of started to sound like Tennessee really had some momentum there, and Tennessee ends up pulling off the surprise. He'll be back in town actually this weekend for his official visit to Tennessee for this weekend's game against Florida, and this will be a really big visit weekend for the Vols. Looks like more than a half dozen official visitors are scheduled to be in for the game against Florida. This was always expected to be one of the 2 biggest recruiting weekends for Tennessee this season, along with the Alabama game later this month, and it looks like right now this will live up to that expectation, despite being a noon kickoff, which sometimes works against Tennessee in recruiting as far as getting guys on campus from a longer distance. Among the official visitors, top 100 running back Johnny Frazier of North Carolina. He's been committed to Florida State for a couple months now, and Tennessee getting his first official visit. So he's probably a long shot for Tennessee at this point, but getting him on campus, a nice start for the Vols. He's shown some interest in the Vols over the past few months, so we'll see what comes of that visit. Ricky DeBerry, a top 100 prospect from up in Virginia, a linebacker, defensive end, who's been to Tennessee several times and continued to show interest in the Vols. He's already been on an official visit to Oklahoma last month for, oddly enough, its game against Tennessee, so he'll be visiting the Vols again this weekend. Pat Allen, an offensive lineman who's committed to Georgia. He visited Tennessee back in the summer for the first time and has remained involved with Tennessee over the past few months and planning to be in town this weekend on an official visit. Another offensive lineman, Matthew Burrell, up in the D.C. area, planning to be in town this weekend. He's been kind of talking with Khalil McKenzie since they met out at the opening in Oregon back in July, and that's kind of how things started up there, and it looks like Tennessee will be getting an official visit from him out of that. Also, Mook Reynolds, a cornerback from North Carolina. He's been involved with Tennessee for a few months now after Tennessee offered him back in the spring. He's a friend and former teammate of Emmanuel Mosley, the freshman cornerback for the Vols, and so that's kind of how they built a connection there, and he's been interested in Tennessee for a while because of him. Also, top 247 cornerback Micah Abernathy of Georgia is scheduled to be in town this weekend on an official visit. That's a particularly important visit coming up. He was just at Georgia this past weekend on an official visit for its game against Tennessee, and there's been some talk that he might be ready to make a decision here within the next few days coming up after that visit, so we'll see if that happens. But regardless, right now it's shaping up to be more of a Georgia-Tennessee battle than it once appeared to be, and he could be close to making a decision. Also, as we mentioned, Darrell Taylor will be in town on his official visit, coming off his commitment last week, so big for Tennessee to get him back on campus. It'll be only his second time visiting the Vols, despite the fact that he's committed. DeAndre Walker, a top 247 defensive end from down the Atlanta area, has visited Tennessee several times. He'll be back on campus this weekend on an unofficial visit. It should be a pretty impressive list of unofficial visitors as well. A lot of 2016 prospects, along with a lot of commitments. Khalil McKenzie making the trip from California on an unofficial visit. Quentin Dormady of Texas hoping to be in town on an unofficial visit. So a number of guys in Tennessee's class already, and then some other longtime targets of Tennessee's likely to be in town this weekend. So we'll have much more on that next week, kind of wrapping up what should be a big recruiting weekend for the Vols. I'm Ryan Callahan with your GoVols247 Recruiting Roundup.